Welcome to Discuss With Us podcast, where we are unpacking the world through a Christian lens. I am your host, Darcy Durkowski, along with my husband, Brian, and our intention is to pose topics, trending and otherwise, and unpack them with the help of some research, insights from our different backgrounds, and even some listener input in a way that is thought-provoking and entertaining. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, and discuss with us.
Welcome back to another episode of Discuss With Us. Darcy, how we doing?
We are doing well. It's a special episode today, or special topic, I suppose.
Ooh, all the suspense.
Yeah. So tomorrow, and probably when most of you are listening to this episode, it will already be tomorrow, but it's our 1 year podcast, 1 year anniversary of doing this podcast.
I'd say how time flies, but there was a lot to do this for a year.
Yeah. I'm
Is that another date I can keep?
don't worry about that.
I'm better at that than you, maybe.
Sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, we released our first episode on February 18th of last year.
Oh, very nice.
Right before Lent.
That's right, because Lent came really early last year,
Oh, yeah.
it seemed like.
Yeah, it was.
And that was, we did like 2 in the first week.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Well,
seemed
our
easy.
pilot, and then that. Well, I wouldn't say it seemed easy because
Well,
one
we
thing
were
I was
like
going to
ready
say.
to go.
Oh yeah, for sure. But no, that first episode did go smoothly. But what is really ironic about that episode compared to the way we do things now is that one we thought out and went, and it makes sense. It was our first one. We didn't know
Yeah.
what we were doing or like how it would go or anything. But we each had notes, like a page worth at least.
I wrote the whole thing out.
Yeah. And probably like even walked through the outline a few times. I don't know. It just was way more prepped than we do things now. And
Yeah.
pretty quickly we kind of transitioned into, not that we don't have a few notes for
We
each
just
other,
started
but
procrastinating a lot more.
well, yes, there's definitely that too. But I think we just kind of realized, like, hey, as long as we sort of have an outline and we sort of know where we're headed, it's honestly better to be less, written out, less
Right.
scripted. So, anyways, it's just funny looking back on that. But it is also funny because that, and I guess it makes sense too, because the hype around like, oh, Darcy and Brian released a new podcast, but that is still by quite a bit our most listened to, most downloaded episode on Lent.
Is it? That makes
Yes.
sense, I guess.
Yeah, and it is a good one. We'll be talking about Lent here pretty soon, and probably we'll reference that episode, I assume. But yeah, so some other episodes throughout the year that have the most download, our most popular, I guess, is On Hearing God Speak with Brent Phillips
Mm-hmm.
and Jared Molman. Did we have any other guests? I think it was just them on that one. Yeah, On
Yes,
Hearing God
just
Speak,
2
because we
on
did
that one, yeah.
stories. That was really cool. And then on Summer Ideas with Callie Beal, that one definitely was a good one too. That's a good one to go back and reference as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Timeless episodes.
yes, for sure. And then pretty much anything that we've had a guest on, obviously, I think gets good good downloads, good interest and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
the one with Bubba on growing kids in faith.
Mhm.
Like a couple of people listened to that one this week. So it's kind of fun to see them pop up.
Yeah.
When you haven't really
Mm-hmm.
just released them. So anyways, that's a little bit about some of our most downloaded, most popular episodes. So let's see. What are we talking about here? Okay, so you kind of came up with this topic, actually.
Which topic? Today?
Yeah, you
Well,
mentioned it the
I
other
just
day.
mentioned what day it is.
Well, yes, but you were like, we should discuss podcasting. So
Yeah.
whenever we're out and about and somebody either asks us or we get to talking and discussing podcasting, or it comes up that we podcast,
It's all the time.
not really at all, but there's some general questions that are asked, and just, I don't know, we can kind of discuss like what we envisioned and the things we had to tackle to do this podcast. Was it harder or easier than you thought it would be?
Whoa, definitely harder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I guess that's true. Like, in a lot of ways, it's a little more difficult than I thought. I think the thing is, we decided wholeheartedly that we were going to do a podcast, and then it wasn't until we released the first one that I realized, I guess, and said out loud, and you at first scoffed at me, but I was like, we have to do one every week. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah. It sneaks up on you.
Well, yeah. And like we said, it's not even like we have it down pretty well, our way of going about things. So there's not a lot of like quote unquote homework to be done for a lot of these episodes. Some of them there
maybe
are.
Bad of us, but
Well, no, I think that the discussion is the discussion. But still, like you said, it does sneak up on you. And
you just don't even realize, like, if the podcast is like 45 minutes, you almost don't even realize, like, oh yeah, that's like, if everything goes well, 45 minutes I have to talk. And that's if you don't have to stop it and go do something else.
Or if you don't accidentally not record or something.
Well, sometimes we just upload those anyways. But it's like at least an hour. Which, I don't know, just with having the kids and just life in general, it's like...
That's definitely the most difficult
and
part.
And thinking about stuff. Like,
well, yeah.
Coming up with the topics is hard, frankly, sometimes.
Well, yeah, figuring out which one... I feel like the topics, we still have a list that we haven't even gone through of all the topics that we have in mind to do at some point. But yeah, deciding on what topic to do that week, unless something has kind of fallen out of the sky, which it does often, honestly, that can be difficult. Like, which one are we going to tackle this week? Because some of them do require a little more research on our part.
And then also, it's like, no matter how many people download it, you're still putting something out there.
Yes.
Forever, so you have to be like super.
Well, there's been some.
You have to be like careful about what you say.
Yes, there have definitely been some that I'm like, I'm not ready to tackle that online yet or on air. But definitely the hardest thing is just getting one out every week. We get in like a good routine of doing it, but then, like, just for example, you just think in your head, and sorry to any new parents out there to burst your bubble here, but you think as your kids get older that sleepy time is going to be easier, and no, there's regressions. We're in one right now.
Literally right now.
Yeah, with our 2-year-old, and he's been sleeping fine for a very long time, and then now all of a sudden, and it's just a phase, like we say with everything, he'll get past it, but it's one of the reasons we waited until this late hour to come out here tonight, because we wanted to make sure he was down. So life gets in the way a lot of times, but I have been proud of us for fairly decently keeping up with a podcast per week.
Yeah.
Other than taking a couple breaks here and there, because we have, I looked at this total before we started this. We've put out 46 episodes in 52 weeks.
Hey.
So that's really not bad.
It's like overtime. It's not even using your full vacation.
That's true. What other questions about podcasting do we get? We get like what equipment we use, which for us, we didn't...
Super high tech.
No. You can do a podcast with a lot less. I've proved that because I've done it from my phone a few times.
Yes.
But we also happen to have more than probably the average Joe in regards to sound equipment, because Brian plays in a band.
Boom,
So,
boom, boom, if you didn't know that. Yeah, we don't have like the things you'll see online, like the podcasting mics or whatever. These are just
right. We should have regular mics.
regular
Maybe one
vocal
day.
mics. Yeah. But these were, I mean, sound wise, these work fine. I really don't even know, besides them looking cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess those podcast mics, they actually pick up more background noise, which I feel like would be more annoying.
For us.
For
yes,
us, yeah. If
'cause
you're
we
in like
have
a,
interruptions
well,
sometimes.
if you're just, it's not a studio. If you had a soundproof studio,
yes.
that's what you'd want. But honestly, it's harder if someone doesn't know how to use a microphone. And I guess these don't look as cool, but it's almost simpler to just have to talk into a regular mic.
Yeah,
So,
you and I both know how to talk into a mic, so it's
Yeah.
okay.
So, in those podcast mics, I mean, some of them are cheap, but I feel like they must be bad. So,
Yeah, maybe so.
these are technically, I guess, nice. They're not for that, but if you know how to, if you've ever given like a toast at a wedding and you didn't have to be told to speak up, then you can just use one of these.
Yeah.
And then
It's a
we just
good
have
anecdote.
a Mackie Pro FX board.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing cool about that is we don't even use it. Well, we have it Bluetooths to your phone.
Yeah, we've used
so you
that
can
for
use that
guests.
for like phone interviews. So
Mhm.
that's kind of nicer than.
No, that was one of the main reasons that
it's like we have a
got
radio
this one.
station.
Yeah.
We only have one
You
line.
can call in.
Only one line.
And
one
then the
at a time.
soundboard came with the program,
Yeah,
which,
I forget what that even. What's that one called? You do all that.
oh gosh,
You're the
I don't,
producer.
I don't even remember. It's got a big W on
I'm
it.
just the talent.
I know there was a learning curve. Like there was a specific problem we were having in the beginning, but once we got past that and realized how to do a couple things on here, I do feel like
It
our
was nice because it had
software.
the template.
Yes, our software has been fairly easy for me to figure out how to produce and edit and stuff like that. So
One of the
that
other
was
funny
easier
things,
than I
like,
thought
you
it
had
would
to
be.
find the music and everything because technically it's funny.
Yes.
Everything you'll see on TikTok and Instagram, and you can do it, but technically, like if we used any song, you can get sued for that.
Yeah,
So we
has
just
to be
decided
like
to
royalty free or whatever
yeah,
it's called.
and so many people will use it,
Yeah.
and do it anyways, and is what it is. We're just rule followers, I guess. So it's simpler. Don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it.
And then we use the Podbean hosting site. That's another question that we get by some people that are like, "Oh, I've been wanting to
Yeah, and how
start a
did we
podcast."
pick that one? I remember we were looking at a bunch of them.
I listened to several podcasts on starting a podcast, and I liked that Podbean has a podcast on how to, and I just liked their direction and everything. I thought it was very straightforward. And then we read some different things on like, hey, what are your goals for the podcast? And if it's XYZ, then this is recommended or not. So that's what we landed on. And I would say it was easy to figure out. Apple, you'll hear this from basically anybody that's getting started or has started a podcast. Apple's artwork criteria
Oh, that's right.
is a hurdle to get it all because they want it in
They're
like
just
different
picky, right?
size. Yes, and they want it in. I don't even know exactly how it works. I had to get somebody to help me figure it out, but they want your logo or your artwork, they call it, they want to have it in like several different sizes so that it
I
translates.
think it's their
through
way to like
app.
weed out if you really want to
Maybe.
do it or not.
Yeah, because they do also have like a review process, but it wasn't bad. Once we got past that, uploading every week is very easy. So, yeah. Any other questions, like technical questions that you can think of that we get?
Not technical.
Okay. Oh, excuse you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that time of year.
Anyways, all right. So I put up a Q&A on Instagram, and we got a few good questions. And some of these are like very podcast specific, and some of that like on the well, I guess not technical side of our podcast, but like specific to our production of a podcast, and some of them are more so they came up because of different things we've covered in our podcasts. But
Gotcha.
we're gonna answer them because they're good questions.
All right.
Okay. So the first one, okay, yeah, this one's good. And this again was something that we've covered before in other podcasts, so I think that's why it came up. What are some funny stories of the kids' faith or questions they've asked? You know, things we've run into with them. We've shared before about June asking about the devil and us being like, ooh.
Now he's asking about like death a lot again.
Oh yeah. No, he does, and it is funny. This was like our conversation on the way to church, I guess, on Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny the way he very like flippantly asks about death and all things death.
Well, yeah,
and me
'cause-
and Brian are just like wide-eyed looking at each other
Yeah.
like, what?
Quit talking about this. It's like, will it hurt when you die? I'm like, I hope not.
What else did he ask? Because he was saying that we would have to figure out our grandparents' names, like what we wanted to be called.
Oh, that's what started
And
it.
yeah. And then he was like asking about when we die. Because what was he saying? Like he was going to pick out his, I don't know.
Yeah, we had to die for him to pick out his grandparent name. or
Yeah.
whatever.
And then how did he get on the subject of do we have our bodies in heaven?
Well, I think I told him, your body ages and your soul's
Well,
what
but
goes.
he asked about, he goes, does God just take
He
you
said,
to heaven?
God, what? He said, why doesn't God just take you to heaven?
Yeah. And we said, well, it might be kind of like that. I don't know. But then he started asking about,
Then he said, I guess not everyone would be old.
yeah.
Because that's why I was like, your body just kind of dies away.
Yeah. And so then before we knew it, and this is the thing with June, and this is why we get wide-eyed when he asks some of these questions, because he's not going to let anything go. So then we were on the subject of souls and what that is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where we are.
Yeah. And then he also the other day asked about he was like really perplexed because he has it in his head that he might want to be a priest.
Yes.
And then he was putting two and two together and realizing that he can't have a family if he's a priest. Like he won't get married.
He's very conflicted now.
Yeah, and
Thought he
so
had
he
it
was-
all figured out
I
at
know.
5, but
And I told him, I said, well, June, I said, God may not want you. I mean, he may want you to have a family. So in that, you have time. You and God can figure this out. You have
Yeah.
plenty of time. And he just gets very serious about things. He's funny.
mm-hmm.
Any other funny stories you can think of?
I don't think the other two have had anything. I was trying to think if they've done anything funny in church recently that I can think of, and I'm sure they have, but I'm like spacing on it.
Yeah, I think you and I kind of like tune that out for
We've always
the sake
gotten
of our
nervous. I
embarrassment.
don't think this has ever happened, but like if they would start. Well, there was the one time I think Dylan started singing
Oh,
"Lights" by Journey in church.
yeah,
like-
he's done that, but most recently he started singing "Country Boy Can Survive" as we were walking up to get our his blessing and communion.
Yeah, that's a good one,
Yeah,
especially because his favorite parts are.
yeah, not appropriate for church.
Well, most of the song isn't, but
Yeah. Yeah. So and I was like, shh. But he started doing it because the piano was playing and everybody was singing. So he was like, well, I'll just sing too, I guess. So yeah, there was that one. And then there's the other funny things that happen with kids in churches when they're always like, are we done?
yeah,
Let's go get donuts.
yeah.
And then, and Dylan's always like, let's go to HEB. It's like, not yet.
It's like everyone's praying. Are we done yet?
Yeah. It's right there at the very end.
We're all thinking it.
I
but
know,
just say
I
it.
know. They do just say it. One funny thing, I don't think I shared this yet. Our boys have been getting really, I don't want to say good at praying like it's a contest, but they have gotten very comfortable praying. Let's put it that way.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that, remember Clyde, this was from not so long after their cousin Stevie was born. And they had been sick, and so I wouldn't let them get near her. And that night they prayed, dear God, please help us to, or no, they said, please help Stevie to grow bigger so that we can put our germs on her.
Yeah.
Because I told them they couldn't get their germs on her because she was too little and couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. I'm sharing. I'm rambling. Do you have anything else?
I was sharing. I got you on your ramble.
Yeah, I guess so. True. All right. That's one question. Let's go to another one. Okay. So what has been your favorite podcast episode that we've done? Not like the most downloaded or anything.
Personality.
That was a good one. Yeah.
That was fun.
That's a good one. I like that one.
That was fun to do. That one was easy to prep. That was easy because we just had to take the thing ourselves and just talk about it.
Yeah, and that's when we were like getting all our entire family
and we hadn't
involved.
done it. Yeah, everyone was participating.
Not forced at all.
Friends were participating. That was we'll have to find something similar to that because that was really fun.
Yeah, like some kind of quiz to take or something.
And it was accurate. So
very involved.
I felt like it was.
Yeah. No, that was a really good one. That's one of our more popular ones too.
We were all into that. We started like paying for results and stuff.
Yeah, we did.
Taking other websites to see if we got the same result.
Yeah, and then
we caught like a stray of just all into that for like a 2-week period.
We did. Well, because then the other game we would play is guessing what types other people would be before they...
That was our nighttime routine.
Yeah, and see which one of us was right.
Yeah, and then see if they took the test and see if they got it right. Or
see if they got it right.
See if we got it right.
That's more accurate. We'd be like, no, they aren't.
Yeah, they cheated.
They think that.
Yeah. We did do that.
That's totally us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know which one is my favorite.
Oh, Lord.
What's that supposed to mean?
You were the one who saw this question coming in. You should have one.
I know, but
you just asked me point blank.
Well, I try not to think too far ahead of these things. Kind of go off the cuff. If I had to pick a favorite...
Scroll through the 46 of them.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I could do that. If I had to pick a favorite that is more on the nose religious, because I feel like they fall into a few categories. I remember really liking the one on reconciliation, and that was one I was really nervous to do. So that's funny. Same thing, talking about like being nervous to do it. I was nervous about our one on capitalism, greed, and first fruits.
You're talking about ones you were nervous about. What was
I know,
your favorite one?
But no, like reconciliation. That one turned out really good. I loved it. I've thoroughly enjoyed all of our ones with guests for sure.
Love languages was fun.
Yes, that one kind of goes along with like personality tests.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
We had like guests.
Love languages. That was a good series. Yes, for sure. And then on growing kids in faith, I got a lot personally out of that one with Bubba.
Yeah.
Talking about like, real like actually reading your Bible in front of the kids, and I don't know, and then talking about the dynamics of their family. Like I got a lot out of that one.
The Great Divorce, reading that.
I was just going to say
I'm
that
looking
too.
at all of them.
I know,
now.
we're scrolling through them now. The Great Divorce.
I liked all of our episodes. Thought they were all great.
Just like shamelessly plugging.
If you haven't listened, you're missing out.
No, The Great Divorce. That book taught me a lot. I feel
seriously, if you haven't read that book, that's like a very good book.
It is. And yeah, and
it's short. It's quick.
No, it is, and it's not like it's a thoroughly enjoyable read, but it is.
It's an easy read, though.
It's an easy read, and
captivating.
yes, it will make you take a hard look at kind of what you believe and everything. So I don't know. That was really good. Um,
What are your
other
least favorite episodes?
oh, really? Do we want to
Don't
go
do
there?
that. Don't do that.
No, I don't know. Yeah, I can't. I can't.
We'll do that on anniversary 2.
Okay. Okay. Did I even answer that really? I'm going to say reconciliation was one of my favorites.
That was a good. I liked that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, and then growing kids in faith, I think that was another really good one, and great divorce. Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
All right, what's the hardest part of podcasting? We kind of covered
finding
some of
the
this.
time to do it.
Yeah,
The time
the
slash thinking, like, because it's not just, hey, let's talk about this. It's, hey, let's talk about this. You're about to put it on the internet. You have to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
If you say something, you should be right about what you're saying. So I don't know.
Yeah, that
There's
is
like,
one of the things that, and we're
we don't try that hard. We always just disclaimers. I think this is what it is.
we do a decent job of disclaiming ourselves.
There's just like pressure to it. I think.
Yes, I will agree.
There's
with
pressure
that.
that you don't realize there is, especially when you're talking about something like this stuff.
Yeah, I will say, I think in response to what you're saying, yes, I agree. The hardest part is finding the time to do it. Because you also don't want to come up with like empty topics. And I will say I have been pleased with our topics. Like scrolling back through, I feel like we do have
and we just
cool
already
range
have
of
our
topics.
own bias too. So like sometimes you have to like catch yourself to remember we were thinking about ones to do for this year, and it's like, oh well, I don't want to just get stuck in a routine of like things we find interesting that can
that's
sometimes
true.
be on a similar path.
The ones that we have to research usually end up being the most.
Well, like neither one of us had read Great Divorce, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if the books you're reading right now are worthy of discussion. I'm not going to read them. So
they are 100%.
You're burning through that, though.
They are 100% worthy of discussion. You just won't read them, and I don't expect you to. So, it's for anyone listening, the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, and they're fantastic. Okay, back to this hardest part. Yes, the time definitely for me personally, and I struggle with this more so than you. Usually the very on the nose religious topics that I shouldn't even say on the nose, the ones that have the greatest division between denominations, I personally struggle with talking about those because I never want people I never want people to think that we think they're wrong, and I always get nervous that people are going to think we're wrong, and it's not like who's right or wrong here, it's discussion.
Yeah,
and obviously you should dig in, research, and go the way you think. It shouldn't be so flippant that you just don't care at all, but still those are difficult to prep for, or I just get anxious about putting something out there, like you're saying, in the ether that could offend someone, or someone may not take the way we intend.
Yeah, we like because the thing is, you get stuck. Maybe the people listen to it won't care, but there's always in the back of your head of like, what if like someone stumbles across this?
Well, I think that you worry more so about the people that you do know listen to it if you feel like they might differ. But yeah,
I don't worry about that. I worry more about the random person.
Yeah, I guess the ones who don't know us personally and may take something out of context that the
people who know you're like, well, I think they'd reach
hopefully
out.
They would give us some grace.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a hard part as well. Those are the ones that I always try to make sure I'm like, we've got to like pray over this topic before we release it, so that we say what we're intended to. Okay, what's some of this is the last question we'll do, I think.
Okay.
What's some of the trickiest subjects?
Well, you just answered that, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I even think that tackling the one on capitalism and greed and stuff, that doesn't have anything to do on the nose
Well,
religious, but
yeah,
that
okay.
was
I think
still
it's
tricky.
yeah, anything that's divisive, potentially
Yeah, I guess
divisive.
so. I guess that's
Whether
true.
it's anything on the political spectrum somewhat
Mm-hmm.
or right and wrong spectrum. I mean, like that's
Or
what
gray areas,
yeah,
you
well, and
know.
that's what makes this not like um if I told you this the other day, like if you were doing a sports podcast or a food podcast, it's
Yes.
straightforward. It's either
And you always
here's
have material.
yeah, here's who
Yeah.
won the game last night, or here's how you cook this, and here's how
Mm-hmm.
you do this. And um, someone may disagree with your take, but like
Yeah.
the stuff we're talking about is a more ambiguous,
Mm-hmm.
um, and b people have strong opinions about it. Which, to be
That's
fair,
true.
like baking and stuff is the same way. But
Well, but also no one's going to get convicted by your recipe or
well, I
something.
don't know. That's they might. If it's like barbecue, it would be
Yeah, so it makes it really difficult because if somebody needs convicting, you want to convict them, right?
right.
But
Hmm.
it's a tightrope for sure. You don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's my question for you. What are you most proud of with the podcast? There's an easier question.
Yeah. The fact that it's a year later and we're still doing it.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I
And I only mean that because we read that thing when
yeah.
we started, like, what was it, like 80%?
Oh, I think maybe more than that. I think it said only 5% of podcasts get more than 10 episodes out, or was it even less than that? It may have been 5
No,
episodes.
it dropped. One went to like 10, and then I think 20 was when you get to like less than 5%, like 20 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like that was our first benchmark. Was
That's
even
true.
even when we started getting tired, it was like we gotta make it farther. We gotta be the
Then Podbean said we
yeah.
would. They can't be right.
That I seriously think that's what
Yeah,
got
that
us.
was a
We
benchmark.
probably would have stopped had
Well,
we not read that.
it is what like made us kind of like double down and be like, no, okay, we've got to, even though like our seasons may be changing and
Yeah,
it may get more
yeah,
difficult to
because that
come
was the
out
thing.
here.
I think maybe after like five, because it was once a week. So after like
Yeah.
5 or 6 weeks, all of a sudden this became a lot more challenging than it was in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. But I think yeah, I'm most proud of us being as consistent as we were and tackling some of those tricky topics that we just talked about. Because I do feel like we have a library of good topics now that were
Yeah,
fun to discuss and hopefully fruitful for someone to listen to.
yeah. Maybe they'll like take our podcast to Mars one day.
Okay.
You never know.
You never know. And, now that it has been a year, so I'm moving on to kind of a goals section here. So
Okay.
now that it has been a year, and because your year really does, like you know this with work, you have highs and lows and ups and downs, ebbs and flows in your schedule. No matter what you do, pretty much you have busy seasons and lesser seasons throughout the year. And so now having done this a year, I feel like we have mapped out, barring getting the flu and
Yeah.
that taking us down for a few weeks, a pretty good idea of kind of how to lay out our episodes where we'll have a good amount that are topic based,
Mm-hmm.
which is our bread and butter kind of, and then topics with guests. Some of those get lighter and some of them do stay, I don't know, kind of more topic based. And then some seasons where we'll have like reflections, kind of probably following Lent and Advent,
Mm-hmm.
more reflection style. And then, knowing where we need to take breaks because it's just going to be a wild time of the year. Um, so I feel like we kind of have that figured out. I'm sure some things will change,
Yeah.
but that information does help in kind of laying out the schedule. So there's that. But back to goals. Um, You got any goals for the podcast this year that you want to share?
To make it to another year.
That's a good one.
That's number one. I think
Keeping up the good topics. I don't want to get
so that was what I was gonna say, and we haven't even gone through it completely yet. And we do this all the time. We will say we're gonna do this, this, and this, and then we change it.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the better. Sometimes you just have to. But
Yeah.
I would say this year, and we've discussed a little bit of strategy on like let's do this at this time of the year and some other ones. But I would say for this year, finding some. I mean, not like we were bad at this last year, but keeping like a broad range of different stuff. So it's not all the same thing over and over.
Yes, for sure. And I think that as far as on the nose religious topics go, you've had a good idea of trying to cover a lot of the sacraments this year.
Yes.
In greater detail that we haven't already kind of gone into. And I think that'll be interesting for folks.
Yeah. And then doing some other fun ones.
Yes.
So that it's not all.
Well, yeah, like you said, I do think we should try to find something that is kind of similar to personality tests or love languages and that kind of style of, quizzing yourself and introspection and stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
My goals, we've talked about, like, obviously we want to increase listenership and keep up the good topics. And then I do want to keep, and I already have some in mind, but I do want to keep having some good guests come on. One of our goals for a couple of different reasons is I think we're going to reorganize our studio here.
Yeah, that was something we talked about.
Don't worry, we're not getting rid of the pool table. That's going to stay here, but I think we're going to shift some things around. So that's one of our goals that we'll tackle here pretty quickly. But I don't know. All in all, I also want to say that, we've talked about like the hardest part of this is really carving out the time for this. And sometimes it's really easy because the topics are kind of just bursting from us. If it's something that's like trending or just happened or we have a lot to say. And then sometimes we have to kind of like dig a little deeper. So, but through all of that and through all of the having to carve out the time with all the things that our family has going on, all of our listener feedback is such a huge part of what keeps us going.
It really does. You don't know that.
No, it
you don't think it going in either.
Yeah, any comments that you guys make or messages you send us or things that you say, when we see you in public and you mention something about an episode you listen to or even that you listen. Those are the things that keep us going. So please continue to share that stuff with us because we love it.
Yes.
And, on that note too, when you share our podcast with someone, and you let us know, like somebody said like, oh yeah, I sent that one to my sister because I thought that is why.
That's why we do it.
do this. And when you just share it, to the social media world online, that means a great deal to us. So thank you for that. We've had one of the other things that you guys and the analytics
exactly
is what keeps us going. When we see somebody pop up from, Belgium or Canada, or India, those are kind of like our furthest away, I think. Well, Canada's not, but still counts. And I some of it sometimes we'll know like, oh yeah, so and so might be traveling over there, and some of it is very random, and I have no idea who's listening over there. And then we've got even just in our regulars, like I can tell there's some people outside of Texas that are very regular listeners, maybe even more so than some of our Texas listeners, and that is crazy and very, very cool, and what keeps us going because it's part of kind of the goal of this whole podcast. So we appreciate that.
Yes.
Any final thoughts, Brian? You guys can't see, but he's like scratching out topics like they just suddenly came to him.
When you're here, that's when you start thinking about it.
So we're planning some really good stuff for you guys. Have no idea what exactly is coming next week unless you just decided that.
Oh, no, that's
in your
just
notebook.
that's goals just
Okay.
for next year.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know exactly. We haven't figured out or narrowed down rather what topic that we are doing next week, but we are getting close to Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Lent. So,
and even though we did that last year, we'll try to find a different angle
this year.
On it this year.
I'm sure we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now that we have
celebrated our anniversary
and rambled on about this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to discuss it, but you go discuss.